much like the first season, it's just doing everything that you would want in a wonderfully epic animated series. Watching this show, it's making me think of some of the greatest animated shows of all time, animated shows that have like affected me on an emotional level. Things like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Batman the Animated Series. It's to me, it's kind of head and shoulders next to those seminal pieces of television. Genre defining, medium defining, and also it is a showcase of what you can do with the video game adaptation. There's no excuses anymore for certainly piss poor adaptations, but also mediocre. It's like when you have something like this, which literally is some of the best piece of storytelling in a moving format over the last few years, over the last 4 years. There's no excuse for making a bad video game movie when someone has made something like this. Let's go ahead and move on to my review for Arcane Season 2, Act 1, Episodes 1 through 3. So, for the time being, I'm going to be reviewing Arcane Season 2 for the next couple of weeks. Netflix, they've adopted the strategy for some of their shows of releasing certain episodes in batches. And I like that. Actually. It gives you time to watch everything over an extended period of time. You don't have to feel like you got to binge everything, right? And also, it just works with the structure of Arcane, since they have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Each feeling kind of like contained with a story and a thorough line, right? And this also follows the release schedule they did for Season 1 back then. 3 years ago. That's what's so crazy, chat, that the first season came out 3 years ago, and I, like everyone else who watched the original season, has been just so excited for Arcane. Simply because, Arcane is just one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite things, one of my favorite stories right now in media. It's the animated adaptation of League of Legends. Now, I knew very little about League of Legends before I started watching Arcane, right? I may have played a couple of matches way back when at a convention on a show floor or whatever. I know it's an incredibly popular series. So many people play it to this day. One of the most popular games still on Twitch. But outside of that, I didn't really know too much about it. However, I have watched all of Arcane Season 1 twice now over the last 3 years. And I absolutely adore the series. For those that don't know, Arcane is set in this huge science fiction fantasy world and follows this escalating unrest between the rich, seemingly utopian city of Piltover and the seedy, oppressed underbelly of Zaun. We mostly focus on these sisters, Vi and Jinx, who find themselves embroiled in a developing conflict over political manipulations and convictions and experimental technologies. The series is simply a masterpiece. The first season was incredible, just in terms of, obviously its animation, its look, but just its characters, its story, everything from the political machinations to the relationships between everybody, the changing relations between everybody, how tragic so many of these characters became, and I'm very happy to say that continues on with Season 2, even though they are playing with a lot of pieces right now, a lot of characters, a lot of stories and sub-stories and tertiary stories and tertiary characters. There's a lot, but the animation continues to be spectacular throughout this entire show. It's so beautiful. It's kind of very much like that 2.5D animation that, of course, we a lot of us were first exposed to in Into the Spider-Verse, and that continues on. This wonderful blending of those two animation styles. And I even like, there's a lot of scenes like within the first season and this season where it's just straight up 2D animation. And they have a lot of those moments, and it just makes it so beautiful and constantly engaging to watch. Like, you can put this entire show on mute and still get so much of. You'll still be missing stuff. You'll still be missing the tremendous voice acting and the wonderful musical score and the soundtrack, of course. But you could just put this on and just be completely enamored with it. I just love the way this show has looked, and much like in the Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machines before it's continuing to showcase this really fresh and innovative animation style that we just continue to see proliferate. That is, of course, on full display right now. The story, again, you have to have had watched the first season again in season 2. Do not start I didn't watch Arcane season 1, or I didn't watch those first 9 episodes. I think I'll just jump into season 2. Do not do that. All right? Because you will be lost. All right? There's a lot of stuff this show takes place literally minutes after the end of season 1 with the assassination attempt on the council in Piltover, okay? So I would encourage you, if you have not yet watched the first season and are wanting to watch season 2, watch the first season. First of all, you won't regret it because it's so goddamn good anyway. You're going to fall in love with so many of these characters, the animation style and the stories and all the twists and turns. Don't worry about that, all right? Watch that show. This series, these batches of episodes are coming out. You have plenty of time. You got plenty of time. Take a couple of days to watch those first 9. You'll be good. You'll be set. Because the story is complicated. And I think it even at times is overwhelming at first because there's new players involved. They introduce new subplots and new powers behind everything. Again, a lot of twists and turns that people go like, oh, is this what's really going on? This is the power behind this person? Like, can't wait to see how that's all going to play out. There is a lot of setup in these first 3 episodes. And again, I think it might be a little overwhelming, but I have a lot of confidence that they're going to wrap all this up and tie all this together, especially since they said that this is the last season of this particular story. I don't think Arcane technically is ending, but this storyline of Vi and Jinx and Piltover and Zaun, it is ending with this season. But they introduce a lot, and they are doing a lot of world building at the same time. Going back to the animation again, the action sequences, much like in the first season, are breathtaking and beautiful, and I think are even better than ever. They're so good. They do such a wonderful job. Like, again, I have very little knowledge of League of Legends outside of maybe the couple things that I played of it way back when. But I'm sure, like, how all these characters are fighting each other and the weapons that they're using and the certain movesets are taken straight from the game. And so I'm sure fans are very happy with that, seeing all these little abilities and sub-abilities and moves and how people jump around and move around the environment. It's very thrilling. It's just so wonderfully choreographed, and there's never a moment where I thought like the animation like looked mediocre. It's like it always looks good. Like every shot, every still image is a painting throughout this entire show, and the characters continue to be so incredibly well developed and have so much emotional weight, and they have a lot of characters that they're dealing with in this show. Some of which, like the first episode, we don't even see Jinx in the episode. She's not reintroduced until episode 2 because we're just dealing with so much of the aftermath of what happened in season 1 finale. But everyone in the cast, especially when it comes to the principal characters in it, from Vi to Jace to Mel, to, of course, later on with Jinx, I think is great too. Caitlyn, and just how all of their circumstances have changed and how they're just really struggling with everything that's going on between Piltover and Zaun. It's gotten worse. Things have not gotten better. Things have gotten worse, and both cities are pretty much at the precipice of war. I would say they're already at war with each other. Is the constant attacks on one another. It just hasn't maybe gone into like a full-on giant conflict with everyone throwing as much as they can at one another, but it's been really thrilling so far. And the voice work, the voice acting and what's being written for these people is great. Obviously, you have Haley Steinfeld returns the voice of Vi, and she's doing such a great job. And Ella Purnell, our favorite lemur, she continues to do such a great job voicing Jinx, but there's not a single person within this voice cast who is doing a poor job. If anything, you just want to hear more of them because of how good they are. But yeah, much like the first season, it's just doing everything that you would want in a wonderfully epic animated series. Watching this show, it's making me think of some of the greatest animated shows of all time, animated shows that have like affected me on an emotional level. Things like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Batman the Animated Series. It's to me, it's kind of head and shoulders next to those seminal pieces of television. Genre defining, medium defining, and also it is a showcase of what you can do with the video game adaptation. There's no excuses anymore for certainly piss poor adaptations, but also mediocre. It's like when you have something like this, which literally is some of the best piece of storytelling in a moving format over the last few years, over the last 4 years. There's no excuse for making a bad video game movie when someone has made something like this. Right? Also helps they threw a lot of money at it and they're using the money quite well. It's on full goddamn display. There's not a single moment where this show looks cheap or like or just is a shadow of its former self. It's like, nah, everything looks great throughout this series, and that also includes the writing and the character work as well. But I want to get into more specifics with this series, and I want to bring up kind of like the dynamics between some of these characters, some of the plot lines they're introducing for this specific series. I don't want to spoil too much, and so this is my non-spoiler section. We're now going to move on to my spoiler section. So spoilers, be warned, it's happening right now. I'm going to put that right there. There you go. Very nice. So I kind of want to separate this into different sections. First I want to talk about the start of the first episode, which a lot of it focuses on Jace and Victor, and also some stuff with Echo and Hermandinger as well. Like, we learned that Jace and Mel have survived the assassination attempt conducted by Jinx, the end of the finale, although many of the counselors are dead, including Caitlyn's mother. But because of this accident, because of this assassination attempt and, assassination of major political figures within the city of Piltover, this has just caused things to escalate even more, and tensions are incredibly high. But also Jace is not only dealing with the political ramifications and the economic ramifications, everything, but also Victor appears to have died. And he panics, and he does the thing which he said he wouldn't do, which is expose Victor to that kind of hex tech that's been manipulated and has been infused with organic matter that killed that one poor researcher in the previous season that loved Victor, but she got sucked up and exploded and splooged everywhere. It was pretty bad. But he ends up connecting his body to the splooge hex tech thing, and he just becomes kind of like completely infused in this fleshy membrane, right? That you don't know really what's happening to him throughout that first episode, and eventually you come to understand, like, it is healing him, but it's also changing him. It kind of reminded me of Saren from Mass Effect, a weird comparison, I know, but he's like flesh and steel, the strengths of both, the weaknesses of neither. He's something new, and eventually he is reborn. And kind of abandons his post at Piltover and wants nothing to do with this right now, and actually goes to like the darkest depths of Zaun, where he encounters a lot of these people that we actually saw in the first season, who have been so affected by their addiction to this drug that has been mass produced by Silco and his various collaborators. I think it's called Shimmer. They have a Shimmer addiction, and he's basically Jesus now. He's sewer Jesus, chat. And he's healing all the sewer people infected by the Shimmer. I'm thinking, well, this is going to be interesting. Now, again, he has these aspirations. He has these good intentions. But, eventually. But anytime people have high aspirations or good intentions in this show, they're always corrupted. And he might be the source of all this corruption, since what happened to that poor assistant might happen to all these other poor people. But seemingly everything seems to be nice so far. But I'm really liking what they're doing with Victor. I'm very curious what's going to be happening with him now that he's healing all these shimmer-affected sewer people. I think he's going to be a major player in the events that are to come. And also just Jace in general, like Jace, like he's constantly gone back and forth. Like he has those high aspirations. He's the one that introduced him and Victor introduced the idea of hex tech and how it's this revolutionary technology. But he had people saying like, be careful. Progress should move slow. You know, you should have these checks and balances. If you go too fast, you can cause destruction. We obviously have seen that destruction. And he's doing all these things to battle Zaun, saying he wasn't going to make weapons. Well, now he's making weapons to battle Zaun. You know, creating these inventions, these mass engines. They're actually polluting Zaun itself. You know, hurting many of the homes of these people, particularly Echo, who comes into this story and confronts Jace about this. And Jace kind of being, I don't know, ambivalent to it all. Really? Just like, what are you going to do? But what I'm doing is good. So again, like creating more of the strife and conflict, I think, between all these people. And then we have the Madaras of this story. Obviously, we have Mel, who is in this very romantic, lustful sexual relationship with Jace. You know, and they're trying to do the best that they can. But then you have Mel's mother of Mbessa, who is this, you know, ruler of this country, seemingly is exiled or something has happened where she has very much been weakened from her ruling position. That's why she's come to visit her daughter. And she's apparently vying for power in Piltover. She's behind. We find out that she is behind a lot of the shitty things that have happened over the last several episodes and into season 1. She's manipulating. Again, that's the political intrigue, which I really, really like. And I expected her to be a threat, but I was like, this is fascinating that she's been behind certain things, manipulating it so she could gain power and gaslighting certain individuals and putting people in positions of power that probably shouldn't have them. And that comes with Caitlyn. Of course, you know, Caitlyn's not doing great after losing her mother, wanting vengeance on Jinx, who she, you know, rightly blames for the death of her mother, of course. But that also makes her relationship with Vi very complicated. Even though they seem to have ignited their romantic relationship, Chad, they're smooching now. They were holding hands, and then they were hugging, and then that leads to smooching. As we know, once you get to smooching, that leads to stupping, right? But her girlfriend's sister killed her mom, and that complicates that relationship. And now she has this foreign leader who's gassing her up to be the new ruler of Piltover over all of it. And she has like kind of like fascist tendencies and wants to go into the city, into the city of Zaun, and as a strike force, gassing all these poor sewer people in an effort to assassinate Jinx, which again, even though Vi's saying, like, my sister's dead, my sister's gone, we have to take her down for everything she's doing, it's still complicated because Vi still loves Jinx, and Jinx still loves Vi. I'm very curious how that story is going to eventually be wrapped up, like what's going to break. But that further complicates her romantic relationship with Caitlyn, and a romance that seemingly was ignited is now extinguished, and Vi is very sad. It's very sad, and I feel very bad. And it's like her cupcake, her poor cupcake did betrayed her. At the end of episode 3. And then we have like this whole other crazy thing that's going on right now with the one scientist guy, Singed. Dr. Singed, who is responsible for everything that we've seen, like across the entire series, like creating Shimmer, which inevitably ends up killing Jinx and Vi's stepfather, and separates them in their relationship, and also him being the one who is kind of the catalyst for Victor to pursue his research into hex tech and everything. He's crying like a wolf man, which at the end of every episode, they have it where he's doing crazy mad scientist like Dr. Frankenstein shit, and it looks like he's creating a wolf man with a dead body. who I believe is a character from the past. And I'd be very interested to see how that character is going to play, what role that character is going to play, especially that character having such a integral connection to Vi and Powder slash Jinx in the series. But yeah, so far, I think these first 3 episodes have been great. There's a lot of players at play right now. There's a lot of characters who are trying to balance a lot of stories and sub-stories and tertiary stories. And it can be a little overwhelming at first, but I feel like I'm going to give them my confidence because they did such a great job in the first season, how that all wrapped up into such a wonderful, emotional finale. I feel like they're going to do the same. Apparently, Netflix wanted to do like 5 seasons, but I guess the creators of the show are like, we can actually do 2. Which I think might be a good thing. If they feel like they can wrap up all these stories and not just have this, extend to however many seasons, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give them my confidence because they created something so special. But what they're doing so far, I think, has been really, really good. They've done such a great job, and I'm just very interested to see where all these characters are going to end up and, who's going to die, who's going to live, what's going to be the fate of Piltover and Zaun, and what's going to spawn from this show as well, because even though this storyline of Arcane is going to eventually end with the end of season 2, that's not to say that Arcane in itself is going to end. I think there's going to be more stories told within this world, and what they've done a good job with, whether it be like Mel's mother, the Madaras, like, and some of these other places that they've name dropped and have like brought up in conversations, like, okay, this is a much larger world filled with other characters and other stories, and I want to see those. I want to see this franchise thoroughly explored in this way. And if they feel confident enough to wrap up this particular storyline within 2 seasons, then they have my full confidence. But yeah, so far, I think it's great. I highly recommend Arcane Season 2, Act 1, and I will continue on reviewing this on a weekly basis, Act 2, and then Act 3. But about you guys, what did you think of Arcane Season 2, Act 1 so far? Did you like it as much as I did? Were you more mixed on it? Do you just hate it? You don't like all this Arcane nonsense. You don't like all this magic and fantasy and science fiction and steampunk. But listen, if you don't like steampunk, I don't know if you're going to like this show. There's a lot of steampunk in this, but I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. What about you guys?
5 minutes later.
So the one girl has red hair, the other one has blue hair. I know. Oh, you revealed too much, Bat Boy. Too much has been said. Too much. And thank you, Evan, for the raid. KC, good to see you. Hopefully we get more stories of Echo and we get Alio and Braum. Yeah, well, they established with Echo because he's fucking pissed off because Jace is poisoning his home. He's like, the hell are you doing, man? Jace is like, I mean, I don't know. Such a dick. Such a dick. Oh, Lord. Are they confirming Warwick being Vi and Jinx's stuff? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't know what Warwick is. All I know is well, their stepdad was Vander. I think Vander might be that Wolfman creature, but I don't know who Warwick is. I don't know. Listen, again, as I said at the top, I don't know anything about League of Legends. All my League of Legends knowledge comes from Arcane. I played like maybe 2 matches way back when at a convention of those computer stations. That was my exposure. I don't even remember what characters I picked to play. So I don't know. I don't think they mentioned a Warwick character. I'm not a League of Legends person either. I only know about the game loosely. Yeah, loosely. Same. Good to have you, Casey. Hope you're doing well. Spoilers Tuesday. I'm going full. I might as well. I could, praise the show for this and that, the animation. But I want to get into more specific details. And there's just a lot of stories going on, so I want to talk about them. So expect this going forward for Act 2 and Act 3. I'll be going into more details. Next week, obviously, with Act 2. But yeah, it's great. It's great stuff, Chad. Highly recommend checking out Arcane if you have not already done so. I might watch the whole series whenever the final part. You haven't even watched the original? You haven't watched the first season? Oh, Mr. Ayers. It's so good. Even if you don't watch season 2, just watch season 1. You had 3 fucking years. No, 4. No, I guess you had 3 years. Yeah, technically 3. Oh, my God. Oh, it's so good. So good. I've told you 1,000 times I suck at Emova TV. Fair enough. That's okay. Well, you know what? You're in for a treat then. You're going to have 18 episodes of Arcane to enjoy once it's all wrapped up. I haven't watched it either. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend. Good to see you, Bishop. Hope you're doing well. Very nice.